Armored Core 6 is here, which means FromSoftware are back to beating us around the head with a rusty mech and a series of even more impossibly difficult bosses for us to seek out and destroy. Armored Core 6's Balteus boss is one of the toughest to take down in the early game, but the rewards are well worth the risks. So let us guide you through the best build for you to take on this bucket of bolts, and how you can avoid getting blown back to the loading screen and get out with your health bar intact. Like all Armored Core 6 bosses, the Balteus boss comes with its own unique skill set, strengths, and yes, even some weaknesses it's possible to exploit. But it can sometimes be tricky to figure out what exactly you need to do. While previous FromSoftware games could facilitate a single build throughout the entire story, you have to be reactive in Armored Core 6 and play to the weaknesses of each boss if you want to be top gun around here. For the Balteus boss, we found that you'll have the most success if you go for a mobile build for your mech. It is essential that you're able to dodge all of the incoming missiles and its more powerful attacks, and more mobility will make it easier to skirt around the Balteus' moveset once you've worked out its patterns. Balteus is also particularly susceptible to plasma damage, especially when it projects pulse armor around itself, and plasma damage strips this away as quick as you like, so we've factored that into our recommended build as well. Like most bosses in Armored Core 6, you will generally want to stay as close as possible to the Balteus so that your weapons can do as much damage as possible. It might seem a little counterintuitive if you've never played an Armored Core game before and you've been given a massive gun to play with, but staying close means the bosses struggle to hit you, and your melee attacks are some of the strongest in the game that you can take advantage of, so you want to be getting into close quarters and swinging at Balteus as much as possible. You can do this by utilising the assault boost on L3 as often as possible in order to close the gap, and once you've done that, it becomes a lot easier to swing your pulse blade at whatever surface of the Balteus you happen to be near, which will do massive damage to the boss and raise its stagger meter significantly, allowing your pulse blade to do even more damage. Just don't sleep on the pulse blade. In terms of attacks to avoid, at the start of the fight you will mostly be faced with a series of missile salvos that have no wind up, but also travel relatively slowly towards you. The key really is to keep moving, as long as you're not regularly standing still and make good use of your quick boost to keep your verticality decent, you shouldn't have too much trouble getting around its offenses and into its defenses. When you've taken down about 50% of the boss's health, it'll start charging up a wide area of effect attack, which you are going to want to stay well clear of. Aya should warn you of this over your comms, but it will be clear when the attack is charging, and it's easy to panic when you see it coming, or not see it coming if you're new to the boss, but it is fairly easy to avoid. Quick boosting backwards or unlocking the camera and assault boosting away makes for an easy getaway and gives you time to plan your next swing around. And finally, when the boss reaches around 30% HP, it will introduce flamethrower attacks to its moveset. These are easily the trickiest to deal with, especially if you've been getting up close and personal with Balteus for your attacks. The flames do pretty significant damage and are a nightmare to deal with if they hit you, but again, avoiding them just requires a small tweak to the game plan. The flames only cover the area directly in front of the boss, so stick to the strategy of getting in close, but just make sure you're maneuvering behind, above or below Balteus. It has no way of pushing its flames in those directions once you've broken through its defenses, so wind up a few of those and you'll have the boss explode into the ground in no time. So that's the game plan down. What about the build? These are the parts we used that we found had the best synergy to take on Balteus. For the right arm, go with the high 16 GUQ1. For the left arm, take the high 32 BUTT/A. For the right back, take the VVC 70 VPM. And for the left back, take the same thing. For your head, take the DF-HD08 Tianquan. For the core, take the BD-011 Melander. For the arms, go with the AC-2000 tool arm. And for the legs, take the Kasuwa/42Z. And for your final bits and pieces for your booster, take the Alula/21E. For your FCS, take the FCS G1P01. And for your generator, take the AGJ098JOSO. That's a lot of numbers and words jumbled together, but hopefully you know what we mean. With all those parts locked in, you'll notice you have a weapons base that is entirely plasma based. It's the Balteus boss's biggest weakness, so you'd be a fool not to exploit it, and it makes a massive difference in the speed that you can whittle down its health bar in. Another key part is the Kasuwa/42Z reverse jointed legs. Yes, even your legs are important. The biggest mistake you can make is get tunnel vision on weapons. That way lies frustration, numerous deaths, and destruction. These legs in particular will give you extra height on your jumps and quick boosts, making it a hell of a lot easier to get in close and keep your verticality going to avoid all those pesky incoming attacks. So take all this advice and put it into action, and the Balteus will be toast before you know it. Armored Core 6 has a ton of bosses that you'll have to take down, and believe it or not, they really do only get tougher from here. So if you're ready to move on to the more difficult fights, check out our guides for the other bosses in Armored Core 6, or if you're new to this whole thing, check out this video, where we give you some tips on the best weapons and parts in Armored Core 6.